It's April 5th, 2019. It's Friday. Mostly nonsense day, but there's kind of a lot of security. Well, the nonsense stories, I mean, they're a bit weak, but we'll do the best we can.
It wasn't a great week for nonsense.
You got to go back and read that Jeff Bezos story. I mean, that was just crazy.
Which is weird because it was April Fool's week. Maybe that sucked up all the nonsense.
Well, we'll cover that next week.
But we do have one fairly serious security story, I guess. And you guessed it. It's about Intel CPUs.
Researchers discover and abuse a new undocumented feature in Intel chipsets. This is Visa. It's like a virtualized diagram of what's going on with the system for debugging purposes. The bad news is that attackers can abuse that to get at data that they're not supposed to be able to get at in a running system. It's not in debug mode.
They have to go to it through the management engine. So you have to compromise the management engine with a downgrade and then get into that with an exploit, and then use that to turn on the Visa system. But once you turn on the Visa system, you basically have a logic analyzer for the CPU.
It's a little bit like Charlie Day when he was in the mailroom, when he's got the smoking thing and the yarn. It's kind of like that with the Intel management engine.
But don't think for a millisecond that there aren't a ton of Chinese hackers just practicing this method.
And the other thing that I think I forgot to include was the ASUS story. There was the ASUS Live Update, which is a different thing. The ASUS Live Update server was compromised and has been for some time. The attackers were able to sign malware as ASUS. So ASUS says that not a lot of people were affected. The security researchers say a lot of people were affected. But buried in that was that about 500 MAC addresses were targeted for like really serious insanity, which suggests state-sponsored malware. Kaspersky were the ones to break the news on that.
We got another story about that anyway. Toyota has lost clients' info. Now, it wasn't quite obvious where it came from. They said there's no financial data, but 3.1 million clients. I got the impression that maybe these were Chinese Toyota buyers.
Yeah, Toyota's not really sure yet, so this is a little bit of a developing story, but there has been a security breach and personal info of 3.1 million clients has been exposed, maybe, but they're trying to figure out exactly what's going on. This is just sort of a full disclosure thing. But yeah, Toyota is taking it very seriously. It seems like they're handling it the way that they should.
Yeah. I guess if all they know is your name and address and that you bought a Toyota, that's not the end of the world, but embarrassing for a big company like that. We talk about the Google Play Store a lot and how things on the Google Play Store, you just have to be so careful about installing apps. I mean, you really, really have to vet your apps like crazy. And it doesn't seem like many people do.
Researchers find that Google Play Store apps were actually government malware. Security researchers found a new kind of government malware that was hiding in plain sight within apps on the Google Play Store. So imagine, if you would, a Level 1 episode of the news where I mentioned that I play Pixel Dungeon. And then nefarious forces, maybe whoever attacked Jeff Bezos is like, Pixel Dungeon, huh? And then they go and compromise Pixel Dungeon and do stuff. Now, these were actually apps that were developed in Italy, I guess.
It was the Italian government.
And so, but they were not like the Google apps or any kind of like real apps, but they would send emails to people to be like, hey, go install this.
It was like coupons or something.
Yeah.
So it actually did. There was a service that the app did, but it was such a non-service. I don't know why people would get it.
They were just hoping that people would install it, I guess. The author of the article supposed that maybe the government was intending to use an application to like target a specific person and just botched it. But these were not apps that were otherwise legit.
They'd also been removed at some point and then put back. So yeah, it seems like this was just one big mistake.
Yeah.
Or a series of mistakes, but they did build it to try and get at somebody. Maybe it didn't work, and then they just threw it out there. I don't know, but
who were those 500 MAC addresses? What's going on?
They also discovered that it was supposed to have a flag in it, where once you got it, it would report who you are, and your phone ID, and then if you were on the list, it would report back with actual malware, but it always returned true.
It would deploy a payload.
So everybody got the payload. And that part seemed to be broken.
How long until, somebody goes to Apple and it's like, hey, all these apps that you signed on the Apple App Store, you need to deploy our thing so that if somebody's on the list and they install any application, they get our malware.
If they thought they could get away with it, they would.
The mechanism for that exists.
Does Apple have canaries? I don't think they use
They
canaries.
do not. The canaries are too gauche for Apple to.
But that would be a good canary to have.
Yes.
We've never been forced to put malware on the App Store. Of course, that would ruin them. They couldn't say yes to that because that would ruin them overnight. Well, you think to yourself...
If Tim Cook is serious about security, like when he was doing that whole FBI dog and pony show, though, he should do it.
You think to yourself, I'm just going to hack Microsoft. Right?
What could go wrong?
This weekend, I'm going to hack Microsoft. And then you get caught. And you actually go to jail. But then you get out on bail and you think to yourself, I think I'll hack Nintendo.
Security researcher has pled guilty into hacking into Microsoft and Nintendo. Now, this security researcher, I hesitate to use that word, but he was, he really he messed up at every turn. So,
Well, in the sentencing, he was given a light sentence and they cited severe autism. Yeah. So I have a feeling that he hacks major corporations the same way that you play with the 3D printed objects on the table. Like, he can't really help himself.
Well, he got caught because he penetrated some edge servers, and he was trying to break into servers deeper into the network and deploying all sorts of crazy payloads and stuff like that. And it's that's not.
Well, I don't think he did that. What he did is he rushed over to IRC seeking validation and started giving out the credentials for the shell that he had set up.
And then bad things happened.
And then some real people who knew what they were doing to actually try to steal stuff, they started installing all the malware and stealing secrets and stuff like that. He got into the Nintendo development server where all the test builds were for the games were on.
Oh yeah, Nintendo will take that very seriously.
Yeah. But he's going to be remanded to the custody of his parents again because he is severely autistic, and the judge said that he probably would not have a good time in prison. He would probably be victimized and probably raped and killed. So, should we give people, serial offenders, a break just because of that? I don't know. Probably in his case, maybe. LTE. Some of us are forced to, keep using it. Even 5G is outside of our reach. We don't even get 5G.
5G is not even real.
So
if you're AT&T,
we're stuck with it, and bad news for us, right?
Researchers find 36 new flaws in the LTE protocol. They actually found 51 vulnerabilities, but 36 were new. So that's not good. 36 flaws deliberately placed there by world governments in order to be able to control the protocol? Or
maybe 12 of them were deliberate. This was fuzzing, where you just cram as much weird data in as you can and watch what comes out the other side, and super effective.
See, stories like this. It's like we're always talking about Huawei and their equipment is dangerously insecure, and they left it insecure and blah, blah, blah. And then we have stories like this.
Yeah.
Is literally every cell carrier, security is not, it's not even an afterthought.
But this is presumably a standard, right? So no one entity could poison this on purpose without somebody else knowing.
It could be like encryption, where the encryption standard is very well done, but the implementation is shoddy and crappy.
Speaking of shoddy implementation, here's a pro tip if you operate a gas station. When you install new pumps, they have these pins, the security for, the software where you update the pumps. You should change the pins.
French gas stations have been robbed after forgetting to change the gas station pump pins. So the pumps have a little remote for doing things like maintenance, and it's like we're going to put it in fill mode where you put gas in instead of take gas out. Yeah, there's a pin number that prevents random people from being able to just do whatever they want. They didn't change it.
So if you have the right tool and you can buy them or build your own, then you can enter that pin and you can do things like change the price of gas to $0. Take away the limit of how much gas you could pump. So these guys were actually pretty organized. They would take a cargo van. I think they've got, I don't know, they don't have a picture of it. They'd take a cargo van and put a giant tank in the back and drill a hole and put a spout in there. And they would come up, set the price to $0, take the limit off, and pump the whole van full of gasoline and drive away. They didn't get caught doing that. They got caught because they were selling the gas online.
Come down to Joe's home napalm.
It was literally like that. Like, here, let's arrange a time and you pay us online and then you come and you can fill up all your vehicles. Or you could buy, they would just have, jerry cans pre-filled. You can just come and pick them up. So they got busted. They got away with a lot of gasoline though. And at those prices, at the French prices, that's a lot. Now, one thing you don't want to do is if you're going to be a hacker, you don't want to go after casinos because they will become violent if you threaten their money.
Casino Screwup Royale, a tale of ethical hacking gone awry. Now, when this was breaking, we reported on this, but we've been pretty quiet for the last few months because this is a story from like late last year. So there was this guy that figured out the hospitality system or like the loyalty system in the hotel was dangerously insecure. And it turned out that was because the casinos had farmed that out. And they tried to do a responsible disclosure, but maybe not. And then it just sort of gets weird from there.
Well, the hacker claims that they had worked out a price.
Yeah.
But the casino
with
people,
the journalists.
Yeah, the casino people say that never happened. So the casino people just kind of ghosted them after they fixed the problem. And then the hacker figured out they were going to a trade show because they were showing off their software and stuff at the trade show. And the hacker got in their face at the trade show. Violence occurred. No one knows who threw the first punch there. And it just got crazy after that.
Yeah.
Which is
a cautionary tale.
I guess if you're going to hunt bounties, bug bounties, the best rule is no physical confrontations. You got to watch out for
especially at security conferences.
Yeah. Bad idea. This is another story I really wish Krista were here because I love, and I think the audience enjoys her visceral reactions to things like this. And it really creeps her out, rightly so, when hidden camera stuff comes up.
Airbnb has a hidden camera problem. This is a story about one guy's experience with an Airbnb. Is like the guy's name was different than the guy that he'd been dealing with online. Was it the same person or not? He didn't know. He found hidden cameras with SD cards, so he took the SD cards and ran away. Airbnb, the company, put him up in a hotel for the night, but didn't really do much to the guy that was hosting the Airbnb. So this guy may file a lawsuit and some other stuff.
And he doesn't know the guy's real name or information. Of course, he doesn't know where he lives. And he's not allowed to contact the guy after. So Airbnb, they say that once they've given you your money back, you are no longer a part of it. You cannot do anything more to escalate that. You can't approach that guy. That would be totally illegal, and they would not support you in court or anything like that. But they also mention a bunch of other instances like this. And you definitely get the idea that Airbnb, although they're happy to give you your money back and buy you a hotel room and all that stuff, the last thing they want are news stories like this about hidden cameras in Airbnbs.
Yeah. It's an interesting story.
It is a horrible thing to do, though. I mean,
yeah.
I think probably some people just don't think it through. They're just stupid, and they're doing it as like an anti-theft, anti-vandalism type thing. But you can't. Now, they do have rules. You can put them in the living room, and external cameras in the house are fine. But anywhere there's a bathroom or a bed, you cannot put a camera. And this guy had him in the bedroom. Well, Huawei, we talked about Huawei, and this story is another great example of the idea that, yes, Huawei is security, their security has flaws, has problems, and the Chinese government may or may not be lurking in the background. But are they unique in something like this?
Well, Microsoft Windows 10 devices opened a full compromise from a Huawei PC driver. Microsoft new kernel sensors in Windows 10 version 1809 flagged a nasty bug in Huawei's PC Manager software. So this software basically created a service that would allow a limited privilege to call the service, which runs as the system user, and then could do anything on the system with administrator level privileges. The process didn't really do much in the way of validation. So an attacker could, for example, run their own process and just tell the Huawei driver, hey, this needs to run as administrator. And the Huawei driver would say, okay, yep, sounds good. And it would just do it.
But here's the thing. As you mentioned earlier, Asus had the exact same problem this week. The exact same problem. Now, do we immediately believe that the U.S. government is behind Asus's poorly designed software.
It was last year. AMD had the exact same problem with their RAID drivers for Windows, and I disclosed it, and that was here on Level 1. There's a video about that. And their process for managing RAID drivers runs as a system user and doesn't really validate stuff. And it was possible to, it was a web server, basically. You could basically use the web server to overwrite system files on the computer, and it was the exact same issue.
Sometimes you do good things and you get punished for it. And that maybe stings more than anything else. And as we embark on the nonsense section, that's what we find.
Verizon workers suspended after rescuing a stuck cat. So I looked at the video, and if this is a video of the worker actually rescuing the cat, then Verizon is full of crap, because that wire there, that's not a power wire. That's communications. So there was not really any danger of this guy doing anything. Verizon's like,
oh, a moment of panic, and here he comes. He's got it. Cat rescued.
ta-da!
So yeah, Verizon says, listen, we don't use the cherry pickers to rescue random cats. That's not what they're for. You risk damage. You risk, knocking out power lines and stuff like that. So 3 weeks, no pay for this man.
There's no power lines on that pole, except for maybe the street light, which is only 110, and that's fine. I've been shocked by 110 countless times, and it's not even really dangerous.
People in the neighborhood are celebrating him, though, because he saved the cat. Now,
we can do a GoFundMe for his lost pay.
Here's the thing about cats, though. That cat probably could have come down anytime he felt like it.
Probably.
Yeah, cats are just like that. So. But, it's a feel-good story. I think Verizon probably should have warned him
that a little better.
Yeah, they should have given him a warning.
Like, don't do
that. And made announcements like, no, that's actually not. We're kind of proud of him, but in the future, we can't be doing this.
Verizon hideously evil. Who would have guessed? Lying through their teeth. Oh, he could have hit a power line. Yeah, he could have, but he looked at the pole and was like, there's no power here. It's fine.
When you go to Alaska, things run a little differently. It's not connected to the mainland, and you can kind of get away with some stuff, and you can get away with some stuff that sounds really fun.
The Supreme Court has ruled that an Alaska man can hunt moose on a hovercraft. So this Parks and Recreation was like, hey, you can't hunt on a hovercraft in a Parks and Recreation zone. But the thing is, it's not public land, and that's what this court ruled.
I thought that was public land.
No, I said that because it's not public land, even though there's some kind of protection thing, it's fine. Well, okay, but the actual thing in the ruling is where he was not public land. Yeah. They agreed with Sturgeon that the whatever river is not public land and is thus exempt from the national regulations under the Alaska National Land Interest Act.
But this says
well, I'm just telling you what it says.
He may use it on a public land.
4 sentences later. Because it's there's some kind of weird national park thing there.
It does seem a little unsportsmanlike to use the hovercraft. But a lot of people in Alaska, that's how they eat. You kill a moose, it's 3-4 months worth of food, if not more. So if he was eating them,
seems fine.
Yeah, go ahead. Do whatever you got to do.
If he's doing it for sport, though. If he's doing Carl's Alaska Adventures, where there's a family from the inner city in the Bronx that is hunting moose, that's not okay.
They have pigs, wild hogs that are nuisance animals, and you can hunt them any way you feel like. And some people do it from helicopter, and that also looks like a lot of fun. There's another great story. If Krista were here, I don't know a whole lot about VeggieTales, but I think she does because she deals with the church kids and all that business. And I'll read the headline.
VeggieTales is racist and dangerous for children, California students claim. Is it because every vegetable has different features?
Well, here's the thing. So they claim that there's a white supremacy angle here, but I assume these front ones are the main characters. So we've got red, green, and orange. Here's a little white girl, I guess. Wait, what is this? Is this a vegetable?
I don't know. Pretty sure it's a fruit in front.
I don't know. But anyway, somehow, not only are VeggieTales, because of the color of the vegetables, is racist, which I don't What does green translate into? None of these colors. But also, because they are biblical, the Bible itself also inherently racist, according to these people. So you just can't win if you're doing VeggieTales.
Why is this like...
So if you got kids, not even once. If we want to get to the moon, back to the moon, I should say, we're going to have to engage all of the workforce, not just the men, I think. I mean, do you agree?
Yeah.
We got to put these women to work, get them out there, spacewalking. But there's a problem.
NASA has canceled an all-female spacewalk, citing a lack of spacesuits in the right size. Lack of outerwear because the women dimensions were different.
Apparently, one woman trained in a large, but they discovered the large was not good enough. She needed a medium. Maybe she lost some weight, and so they have canceled. Well, they didn't cancel it. That she's going to have to go out with a man.
Low Earth orbit problems.
Patriarchy wins again. It would suck if because I imagine astronaut training pretty grueling, and you have to go through all the school and learn everything, and it's your big day. You're ready, but they don't have a suit that fits you.
I was gonna be an astronaut, but then the patriarchy denied me my suit.
You got to explain that to your friends. It's like, oh my God, did you spacewalk while you up there? Well, I was supposed to. In the history of great travel slogans, I think this one is probably top 10. Fantastic idea.
AirAsia apologizes, drops "Get Off in Thailand" promotion.
You see, Thailand's famous for sex tourism.
We're not 12 here at all.
They did apologize. Now, one maybe dark part of this, one negative, is that famous for sex tourism, also underage sex tourism.
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah,
Can't laugh at that.
Getting off in Thailand on children would be a real negative. So they're going to change it, but whoever came up with it, it was clever, right? They probably weren't thinking about the children.
They were not thinking about that.
Let's hope they were.
That was one of those things that just translates really poorly.
We talk about cyclists a lot on the Level 1 news because it comes up in a lot of these hipster communities, and and I always say bad things about them because they're super annoying. I mean, they are just... First of all, they're on the sidewalks, which is illegal. No one seems to care. And they're clogging up traffic. And
they can come out of nowhere unexpectedly.
The other thing is they feel very entitled, and they seem to bitch a lot.
Experts want the word cyclist banned because it dehumanizes them.
What kind of expert is worried about this problem?
A cyclist.
I guess. So I think they want to be called like bicycle humans or bicycle riders or something like that. And I don't understand the difference. Do you?
No.
How does it's not completely human? What is the word driver? I mean, we have self-driving cars. Robots can drive.
Can we get a self-driving bicycle?
I'm sure that exists.
That may have to be a tricycle though, I guess.
No, I've seen little toys that can balance.
What if we have like the Segway technology for the balancing? And it's also self-driving. That would be an amazing bicycle.
That would add a lot of weight to the bicycle. You'd really be cranking your legs to get that thing moving.
What separates a bicycle from a motorcycle at that point?
Oh, actually, the phrase they want to use is people who ride bikes. You're going to 4 words to replace cyclist? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
I'm on board with getting rid of cyclist if we also replaced motorist with people who ride cars.
Drive cars. But you have people who can ride cars and people who can drive cars. So we have to...
Yes, we will have to use all of those words every time we want to talk about those things.
I thought this story was great just because this woman went her whole life without realizing that she was different.
Scientists find a genetic mutation that makes a woman feel no pain. Well, it's actually more interesting than that. It's not that she feels no pain. It's just that her sense of pain is greatly diminished, which is actually much more rare than not feeling any pain at all. Not feeling any pain is not super uncommon, but people will like those people will like chew up their tongues and do lots of crazy stuff
There's
like
a
that.
disease that can cause that.
She doesn't have that. She can feel pain. It's just dramatically reduced.
Just minor discomfort. But not just physical pain. She doesn't seem to experience any emotional like unhappiness or anything of that nature. And she's just like, well, I've always been happy-go-lucky and things didn't really bother me, even like deaths. But I never thought I was different, until...
She's also forgetful, apparently.
But she's an older gal, 71, and at 69, her body just started falling apart. She had like severe carpal tunnel syndrome. Her hips had basically disintegrated. And when pain that would have probably killed normal people got her to be like, you know what, I think I'm going to ask my doctor about this. They were like, we must do 5 surgeries in the next week. They have to happen now, or your bones are going to turn to dust. And then after the surgeries, she didn't even do any kind of opiates or anything.
She also healed really quickly, apparently. So apparently not being able to feel pain also means that like scar tissue does not develop the way that it normally does, and she healed differently than she would have otherwise.
It's funny because she could literally have been a superhero.
Yeah.
But she just went through a mundane life and didn't. This is Wolverine if he never got discovered by the X-Men.
It's they did refer her to genetic testing, and they figured out that what genes two previously unknown, one was kind of known, and then one was unknown, of her genes were manipulated in a certain way. One of the genes was like cut off at the front, and the other one was something else. And so they're going to look at using that mutation to help certain other kinds of people.
Oh, CRISPR babies.
Well, no, I think they can do it. They can suppress whatever it was through drugs. They had no idea that particular gene would affect all those things.
No HIV and minus pain gene edit. That's what I want my kids to have. Never having kids. This is another story that, again, I wanted Krista to be here because she's such a big mushroom enthusiast. And I was going to set her up because I know she wasn't going to read the story ahead of time. And I was going to set her up and be like, Christy, you love, fungus and mushrooms, right? And she's going to be like, yeah. And then I was going to be like, oh, because you want frogs to die.
Nearly 100 species of frogs, toads, and salamanders are wiped out by fungus.
Look at this poor guy. He looks miserable.
So this apparently, frogs and toads and that kind of thing in like South Asia are immune to this. But this fungus has spread all over the world. And most of these reptiles and amphibians are not immune to this, other than outside of Southeast Asia.
They've developed the immunity after years of being assaulted by this fungus.
Yeah.
So yeah, they blame people taking, the reptiles over borders when they shouldn't. That's why you don't do that. That's why Australia is real serious about that. Because who was the celebrity?
Oh yeah,
I think it was. Was it Johnny Depp?
Yeah, he brought his dogs or something.
Brought his dogs, and they locked him right up. And they're like, nope. We're keeping these dogs now.
There's a lot of deadly things in Australia looking to get out.
Yeah, but it's such a weird ecosystem that I can see bringing anything in there is gonna tip it over. And also, we got those fish that are moving their way north. That's like just nuisance fish, but they can outbreed and out-eat every other fish in our waterways. So
that's probably bad.
Got to be careful when you take animals to certain places. We mentioned, of course, it's over now. You've already experienced all the April foolery that has happened. But one place that you didn't see it was Microsoft.
Microsoft leads the way in banning April Fool's Day pranks. So there was a memo issued by the CEO, and he's like, hey, these usually backfire. They're not funny. Let's just not do this.
It's rare that you get a good one. And after the first one gets you, it's usually just a news story or something, and you're like, wait, what? Oh, and then for the rest of the day, you just discount everything you see.
Yeah.
So,
well, like I can imagine a riot at Microsoft where it's like we're doing away with the Mrs. Fields cookie machines. Then it's just like a riot. Everybody freaks out, and they just it turns bad fast. And it's like no one's getting rid of the cookie machines. It's April Fools, and then you can't calm down quickly. You're just amped up. You've got the baseball bat ready to smash things because they've taken away your hot, delicious, fresh chocolate chip cookies.
Also, the April Fool's stuff I feel is less useful than ever because more and more of the headlines that we see would qualify, except they're real. Like a headline that says we're going to build a useless wall between two countries, or we're going to get rid of fossil fuels and rebuild every building in the country.
Russian company Kaspersky is going to help Asus with their security problems.
Yeah, so you don't need April Fools. It's not. It's like daylight savings time. We don't need it in the modern world because everything is insane. So I agree with Microsoft on this one. Somebody I just recently caught up. Are you familiar with Notch's Twitter escapades?
No.
He is. I'd say he and I are kindred spirits in the fact that we won't kowtow to the modern political correctness. But he has a much larger audience than I do. And a lot of his audience are young people who love Minecraft. And they are very much, new age and have different feelings about it. And so that might be the catalyst for this.
Minecraft creator Markus Persson has been eradicated from the splash text. Both the Java and the console versions of the game have been updated. And this is the first time they've been updated in forever. There are other updates to the game other than his removal, but
they've changed it pretty dramatically, actually.
Yeah,
they've been changing Minecraft. I looked at all the new stuff. It's amazing all the new stuff they put in Minecraft, but they've always left him in there, even though they bought it from him. He's not part of it anymore.
It's been long enough.
Yeah, I don't think it was about that. I think he said some things on. Especially related to gender and that kind of thing.
I think I did follow him on Twitter a long time ago because he seemed kind of unhappy. Like he had, all the wealth from the purchase and he bought a really nice house. I think he bought like the house that's in like the Iron Man movie where it's just like the house on the rock.
Yeah, it was hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, it was something crazy. And he was like, I don't really know what to do now because what more is there? And it was like, this is sad.
Yeah. And I think he also lamented the crazy fandom of Minecraft sometimes too.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you just want to like unplug, decompress, and just work on a pet project and not have anybody bother you.
Well, who's stopping him?
Well,
he could literally live in a bunker.
But you don't want to.
Well, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
You know what? He's like my cats.
I want to be in there. No, I want to be in here.
Yeah. I want to be in here, but I want you to follow me and watch me while I play with the laundry basket. Don't interrupt me, but you need to be in the room.
My mom's cat was so upset with it that I put it in the pet carrier thing so we could do the stuff that, it didn't have any food the night before because we knew it was going to have to go in the pet carrier and deal with all that. And then we did all the stuff. And so it was only like a day. It was in the pet carrier for like 5 or 6 hours. And at the end of it, it's like, okay, we'll let you out. I know you got to be hungry. Here, I'll give you some food. It was so pissed off, it literally would not eat the food that I put out for it. I was like, here, I'll give you some food. Mom gave it another can of food of the exact same kind of food in a different dish, and it ate it. And it still has not touched my food. That's vindictive.
Yeah, they can be very contrary. For sure. And that's why I love cats, but I just wish they wouldn't be so loud about it. 3 of the qualities that I consider to be the worst human qualities: being loud for no reason, talking too much, and seeking attention. I got cats that embody that. And it's my curse for making fun of Rue for being retarded. But I could have gone with dogs. And what if I wanted to get a very specific dog? Not a specific breed of dog. An actual dog that already exists. Well, in China, that's no problem.
Across China, the clone police dog starts training. So why would you want to clone a police dog? Well, it turns out that if you have a police dog that's really good, you don't want to take it out of service so that it can get pregnant and have a puppy.
This one was female.
Yeah, so you can just clone it. And so it doesn't make it any faster. It's not like saying that it's cloning the training of the dog. It's just that the genetic qualities of the dog make it a really good police dog. So they're just going to clone it, and by cloning it, they don't have to worry about the other dog getting all weird and hormonal and stuff.
I think they also, when they do police dogs, they take a whole class of police dogs, and only a certain amount actually can be police dogs. Some of them are actually just too friendly.
Yeah.
And so with this one, they're fairly confident it's trainable in the same way, because this is basically a super dog.
Yeah.
As far as police work goes. So interesting that China, after the little CRISPR debacle, they want to still work in the cloning industry.
Yeah.
I think they're going to use that Australian woman, and we're going to get super babies, and that may or may not turn out good. I don't know.
Whee!
We continue to talk about the Christchurch shooting, and I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think this is a bad thing when we start using it to just say that people should be silenced.
Washington Post says that 8chan looks like a terrorist recruiting site after the New Zealand shooting, so should the government treat it like one? This is just a bunch of people that have very bad taste, but I don't think that any of those people are actively looking to become terrorists.
Well, they do point out some posts that people are saying, oh my God, I want to do this now, or he's a hero, or whatever. But here's the problem. I'm sure that if you look at the entirety of 8chan, the number of like anime girl posts and Pepe's and just utter nonsense. Actually, this is a meme. I don't know if you've seen it, but they'll put a headline like this, and then they'll pick just the stupidest 8chan post that they can find and paste it underneath it. That has nothing to do with anything. It's just absolute, just stupidity. That's got to be a small portion of what's on 8chan. And so you shut down a thing because...
Well, it's also the type of site that somebody would post that just to get the other users riled up.
Exactly. And the shooter himself was trolling in all of his literature.
Yeah.
And no one seems to understand that. No one seems to say, hey, he did this to stir us up and try to get us to do things like this, and now we're doing things like this.
Well, the reaction has been the only way to prevent people from getting stirred up is to just hide all of the information preemptively because people are dumb.
Right.
And it's like on the one hand, I do believe that people are dumb and will get riled up about stuff. But on the other hand, you got to give the people that aren't that dumb the right to choose. Not really the right to choose, but like the right to decide for themselves, I guess.
Yeah, and if they decide to do something terrible, they have to be allowed to make their own decisions up until the point that they do that.
Yeah.
And posting on a message board is not illegal.
Anything else? I mean, literature has shown us that any other alternative ends much badly.
Not literature, history. I include this story only because it's about my beloved Nestle, and so many people are against it.
Nestle is going to face a lawsuit saying that Poland spring water is not from a spring.
It is true, a dark truth, that Nestle does in fact use common tap water to fill its bottles, but it's the purification process and the minerals, as we have already covered, that make it unique.
There were a lot of people in the audience that are aware that, I mean, it's like, is it off camera? I can't tell. Is it?
Probably.
This is the Nestle Pure Life, though. This is not Poland Spring.
Yeah, I think Poland Spring is actually a little bit more expensive, isn't it?
I don't know. Reverse osmosis. That just means they put the filter in backwards.
I think it's a little more complicated than that. But yeah, they just take common trash water and pull all the crap, literally everything out of it. Reverse osmosis. Actually, here's a fun science fact. You wouldn't want to drink water that was just pure, straight water. That's actually not good for you. So they make it pure water, then they put some minerals and crap back in it and make it taste good.
Unlike Dasani, where they add salt.
Sodium. And then they sell it back to you. And did anybody really think it was coming from a beautiful spring that's on the bottle?
Yes, apparently. Or maybe not, because lawsuit.
Well, if you feel this way about Poland Spring, just downgrade to Pure Life because it's the same stuff. I mean, this is like it's like Apple pricing. That goes up. They don't really give you anything better for you for the better price. And finally, let's talk about security and what are we going to do to secure under the sea? Who do we employ?
Grouper. Groupon. Military tries out fish as underwater spies. The sophisticated sensing behaviors of marine organisms could serve as surveillance. Yeah, so grouper, whenever there's something different about their environment than it was, they will make a certain type of auditory sound that is easily detectable by sensors. So you could just deploy a bunch of grouper somewhere, and if you've got a spy submarine or divers or something, they're going to make a different sound.
They also bring up that there could be even something as simple as plankton that in the presence of some sort of radioactive waste or even metal, they would change somehow. Something would be different. If you could detect that, then you could detect that there's a submarine in the area or something else. They don't really have a plan on exactly how this works. They're just thinking, hey, fish are in the water, right? Fish react to things. Why don't we just study the fish to figure out what's going on under the water?
What could go wrong?
But what if the fish react to the sensor and poison the reaction?
I'm just remembering the time that we trained dolphins to deliver explosives to blow up enemy subs.
This is a little more benign than that.
Yeah.
But, well, okay, what if it's an arms race? So we do this with the grouper. The Russians find out about it, and they build a toxin that only affects grouper, and then we wipe out the world's grouper supply.
We've seen how this game ends. The ultimate killing machine is sharks with lasers on their head.
How about CRISPR sharks with the 71-year-old woman anti-pain gene?
Sharks that can no longer feel pain would be unstoppable killing machines.
Laser sharks who cannot feel pain and who are reporting home through sensors of what they detect. And go ahead and put explosives on them too.
We need to get a patent attorney like Stat.
We might need a geneticist to translate that human gene over into the shark world, but that'll be fun work. It might not be super effective at first, but it'll be fun. You know, it's like all the little baby sharks, and we're torturing them to try to figure out if they can feel it.
I'm not a biologist, but there are a couple instances where different species have evolved the same gene for things independently, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Record time this week, which is funny because Krista's not even here. Maybe Krista is a factor that controls the length of the show, and without her, we just spin out of control.
I think she gives us cues that we need to move on because she's sitting over here and she's just like...
She does give some great facial expressions. But I don't know. We don't know where she is.
We'll see you next week.
She's missing. Come by next week to find out the mystery of where was Krista.